in an attempt to ease Americans' demand and slow inflation. Powell clarified in the speech that additional rate hikes are on the way, further eroding optimism for a soft landing. Powell also stated, reducing inflation is likely to require a sustained period of below-trend growth. There will be likely some softening of labor market conditions. The Fed has targeted the labor market as a key battleground for fighting inflation, and Powell has cited the massive imbalance of worker supply and labor demand. Government data published last week indicated the U.S. was still touting roughly 2 jobs openings for every available worker, underscoring just how tight the labor market has become. A growth recession could even drive the unemployment rate sharply higher if enough companies lay off workers to bolster their balance sheets. The rate is at around 3.7%, just a little above the 5-decade low since before the crisis. To press the fight against inflation that she said is hurting lower-income Americans the most. That will mean more interest rates increases and keeping rates higher for longer. The majority of people now say price increases are causing financial hardship for households, and up to 49% in January and 45% in November. Millions of people are going to see a decrease in their monthly benefit checks. Democrats and Republicans are being urged to approve an expansion of monthly child tax credit payments. A relief proposal has been put forward that would send out $350 checks every month to eligible Americans. And now, new food insecurity data, released by the U.S. Department of Agriculture today, provided the latest evidence that the enhanced child tax credit and other relief programs passed in the first 2 years of the crisis significantly helped millions of people to support their families last year. And with much of the aid now ripped away, households are again struggling to make ends meet. The agency's annual report on food security showed that about 1 in 10 homes, or about 13.5 million households, they didn't have enough food in 2021. Overall food insecurity remained the same from 2020 to 2021 and grew worse for older Americans. The report says that the prevalence of food insecurity declined from 2020 to 2021 for few population subgroups, including households with children under age 18 and with children under age 6. Last year, 6.2% of households with children were unable to provide adequate and nutritious food for their children.
Exhausted and want the government out of their lives, out of our personal lives. And Justice Thomas's opinion about nullifying marriages, about getting rid of birth control, is an extreme overreach. This is a country built on freedom, and it is time for us to stand up. The exhausted majority, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, saying we want limited government and we want it out of the private lives of American citizens, especially the women of the United States. Madam Speaker, I rise to talk about a very important issue in this country. This country is a country that has been and was founded on the idea of freedom. This country has fed more people, clothed more people, cured more people, and liberated more people than all the other countries in the world combined. And the source of American power has always been the great American middle class, which we need to have an aggressive policy to rebuild. And the strength of the American middle class has always been connected to our energy policy. Do we have a policy in this country that will allow us to dominate the world in manufacturing, to dominate the industries of the future, to keep costs low for both business and consumers? And so I'm rising here today in support of this permitting process bill that we will be voting on here this week. This is an important opportunity for us to mobilize and move the natural gas industry in places like Ohio to both reduce costs here for manufacturers and consumers, and for us to export this product abroad to make sure our allies in Europe are able to get cheap natural gas so they're not hooked on Vladimir Putin. There's an opportunity here to sell to China, who's putting on 1 coal-fired power plant a week. This is both a jobs bill, this is about putting money in people's pocket by reducing energy costs, and this is about helping our allies abroad. The #1 country to reduce CO2 from 2005 to 2019.
Yes, it is finally happening. Congress is passing a new stimulus bill very soon. Joe Manchin is now meeting with Republican lawmakers to gain their support on President Biden's spending bill. Now, many people will be receiving an $800 stimulus check very soon, so you want to continue watching this video to never miss out on the very important stimulus check information, and we have a ton of good news to cover. So the majority of people in Colorado are eligible to receive $400 to $800 stimulus checks from the state government due to the Taxpayer Bill of Rights passed in 1992. Most full-time residents have already taken in the necessary steps to get their check mailed to them this summer, filing their 2021 state income tax return. Any full-time resident who hasn't been filed can still claim and ensure they get a check by filling out a submitting form by May 31st. However, a lot of residents, including many veterans and seniors, do not regularly file state income tax returns, and they have questions regarding their eligibility. Folks, the answer is yes. You are still eligible to receive the $400 check for single filers and $800 for joint filers if you are a full-time resident. According to Colorado Governor Jared Polis, there are additional benefits to filing state and federal income tax returns, even if the taxpayer owes little to nothing. He said filing a return ensures that any excess withholding tax is refunded, and they may also be eligible for valuable refundable state and federal credits, like the Earned Income Credit and the Child Tax Credit. This is the same requirement for people in Colorado who claim and receive payments for the 6-tier flat sales tax refund mechanism that would normally refund the money at filing time next year. All eyes are on Joe Manchin as he moves forward with negotiations on President Biden's Build Back Better bill. Reporters have asked Senator Manchin and GOP senators about the claim in a new book that Manchin says he will be willing to switch to the Republican Party if Senate Republican John Thune were the Senate GOP leader instead of Mitch McConnell. Manchin told reporters today that Republican colleagues frequently ask him about switching parties and that he never seriously considered leaving the party. The banter between Manchin and his Republican colleagues is reinforcing doubts that he will not sign on any point this year to a partisan reconciliation package to enact major elements of Biden's domestic agenda, with 50 Democrat votes and no GOP votes. Democrats also have taken note that Manchin's opposition to various Democratic initiatives appears to be playing well back home. According to a report, Manchin's job approval rating in West Virginia has jumped by 17 points compared to a year ago.
For decades, the trickle-down economics has failed as income inequity grew to historic levels under the Republicans, the mega Republicans, the MAGA Republicans. I don't want to mispronounce it, the MAGA Republicans. This is time to grow the economy, but from the bottom up and the middle out. Because here's the deal. When the poor have a ladder up and the middle class grows, the wealthy always do very well. They do very well. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. Everybody doing better. And so I want you to understand, again, first year, $350 billion reduction in deficit. This year, $1.5 trillion. It's going to bring some relief. Thank you. I take a few questions quickly.
Mr. President, may I ask you a question about sanctions? The EU, about sanctions against, or about further sanctions in Europe. The European Union today announced